Jihad has been declared against President Donald Trump and the United States citizenry as a whole. And who called for this jihad? Why, none other than a woman who claims to champion the rights for American women, and while doing, nothing about the abuse and murder of women from her own family's native home of Somalia. And what is the name of this defender of truth, justice, and the American way? Why, it's Linda Sarsour. Tonight, our special report on Islam and signing up for the Magical Mystery Tour. Also, we'll have a 5-minute speech by Linda Sarsour that will shed light on her true core thoughts and beliefs.
Oh, I say. It's time once again for the Spearsy Spin with Mike Spears.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Spearsy Spin. Tonight we have a special report about Islam, Jihad, and what I refer to as the Magical Mystery Tour. Well, first off, what is a jihad? Well, the dictionary shows the word is a noun, and the word is based in Islamic religion. And what are the definition of the word? Well, this is where many definitions differ. However, the Spearsy Spin has researched this in depth. The word jihad, focusing on the influence from the Far East, well, here then is the non-antiquated definition of the word jihad. A struggle or fight against the enemies of Islam. Now enter the focused personality of the person in the limelight tonight in our show, Linda Sarsour. Now, she was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Afghan parents who apparently migrated here, and she lists her residence as Bay Ridge in Brooklyn, which, by the way, is a very expensive place to live, and she lists her nationality as American. She was educated at Kingsborough Community College and Brooklyn College, both of which tend to be left-leaning. Her current occupation is activist and writer. Now, Linda Sarsour promotes herself as a Palestinian-American political activist. It sounds like a formidable title, yet in reality it breaks down to, give me a soapbox. Now, she's a former executive director of the Arab American Association of New York. And speaking of the Arab American Association, what is it? Well, it's a watchdog group. Basically, it's designated in part to make certain that Muslims are treated fairly. Now, if you're a woman living in the United States, good news, everyone. Linda Sarsour is fighting for you. Yep, as a matter of fact, she was one of the organizers of the 2017 Women's March in Washington. Now, Sarsour was raised in Brooklyn, again by Afghan parents who, of course, schooled her in the Islamic faith. And as we just mentioned, women's rights are, they're her top priority. And speaking of women's rights, her prearranged marriage went off without a hitch when she was only 17. And she had 3 children by her mid-20s. Now, after she finished high school, she dreamed of becoming an English teacher. But a greater calling besieged her. Yes, so she set her sights on a political activist career. Now, shortly before the September 11th attacks against the United States, Sarsour began working at the Arab American Association of New York. And what type of work did she do there? Why, she worked tirelessly defending the civil rights of Muslim Americans following the 9/11 attacks. Of course, she and her Muslim neighbors, while living in New York, decided that it was high time to have Muslim holidays recognized in New York City's public schools. And if you are a police officer, I'm sorry to tell you, but you are under condemnation by Ms Sarsour. Now, following those 9/11 attacks, it appears that the police took a deep interest in those who appeared to be of the Muslim, Islamist, Middle Eastern persuasion. I guess it had something to do with over 3,000 innocent Americans being killed by Islamic terrorists on 9/11.
Honey, come in here and listen to this guy.
Why? Is it important?
Yeah, it's important. He's talking about the Trump administration and the CIA, NSA, and FBI investigations.
Oh, Ralph, you know I don't like politics.
Oh, stop talking and just come on over here and listen.
Well, he does have a nice voice. He seems to be educated.
No. Not his voice. Listen to what he's saying.
Well, if what he says is true, then there is a real problem in Washington. So this woman, Susan, what's-her-face, she leaked information or something?
Honey, you have to listen. He said that reports are now showing that information was leaked about Trump's cabinet members. I heard this on the news today as well.
Is this Fox News?
OMG, no. This show is called The Spearsy Spin, and the guy's name is Mike Spears.
Mike Spears. I'm wondering if this is the same man that did all the voiceover work at WNBC Radio in NYC back in the late 70s and early 80s?
Wait, you know this guy?
Well, I don't know him personally, but he did a lot of voices for WNBC 66 Radio and for Michael Sarzinski on that station. That was the only station we listened to back then. I recognize his voice and diction. He did voiceovers and impersonated voices, Howard Cosell and such.
Wow, he's been around that long?
Ralph, listening to Mike Spears talk about politics, well, it's kind of like having an old friend over to chat.
Wait, you mean you like the Spearsy Spin?
Ralph, sit down and shush. I want to hear what Mike's saying.
Yes, police surveillance of Muslim Americans caused Sarsour to protest the police. Now, don't forget, she's also friends and she is part of demonstrations with Black Lives Matters. Keep that in the back of your mind as we go forward. Now, in 2011, Sarsour was appointed director of the Arab American Association of New York. While there, she worked, for passage of the Community Safety Act in New York. Now, this act provides an independent office to review police policy with regard to bias-based profiling in New York City. Sarsour claimed that there were too many Muslim instances of biased policing in local neighborhoods. In 2011, Sarsour participated in the Progressive Women's Voices Media Training Program. In 2016, she ran for county committee member in Kings County, New York. And of course, if you're like me, you absolutely love the Time magazine. Well, Time magazine has featured Sarsour as one of the top 100 most influential people. Of course, this was based on Linda Sarsour's progressive movement in the United States. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Sarsour is a component of Black Lives Matter and has been involved in demonstrations. She also has appeared as a television commentator on feminism. Of course, that is for women in the United States. Sadly, nothing about women in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and the like. Countries where women have less rights than a goat. Countries where men rape women at will. Then later, the community quite often stones the woman to death for being raped. Sarsour has also tackled immigration policy and mass incarceration issues of Muslim suspects, and of course was helpful in the de-escalating of the stop and frisk program in New York City. You know, the program was in place to get, rid of drugs, to get rid of the guns, to get rid of contraband, and it worked really well, and crime went away. Oh, well, you get the idea. One of her more notable concerns is that of the New York Police Department's spying operation on Muslims. She does not want people spying on Muslims. Now, Sarsour was a supporter of U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders during the 2016 presidential campaign. Sarsour has continually been outspoken with regard for Israel's policies in occupied territories. Now, Israel will be happy to know that Ms Sarsour thinks that Israel has a right to exist. I'm sure they're thrilled about that. Now, with that said, Mayor Bill de Blasio has applauded Sarsour for her progressive actions. Liberals seem to love Sarsour's continued devotion to their agenda and hers. While Barack Obama was President of the United States, he decried Sarsour as the champion of change. After President Donald Trump took office, the White House removed any and all mention of Sarsour from its websites.
Howdy. I was born in California. Been chasing cows and gold prospecting most of my life. Reckon I've done all right. Made more money than 4-pack mules could carry. But all that money means squat if the country you're living in is headed downstream to the falls on the Niagara. What happened to this country? Protesting, fighting, killing, folks offended by words, college kids getting safe spaces in their buildings to go to when life scares them. They get chocolate milk and told everything will be just honky-dory. A safe space in college? What in tarnation's that about? That makes as much sense as putting tits on a chicken. Look, I don't have any answers here about America today, but my friend Mike Spears does. Why, he's got the education, the background, the grit, and does a fair job of speaking too. He's got himself a show called the Spearsy Spin. If Mike tells you something on his show, y'all can take it to the bank. Well, these here cows ain't gonna drive themselves to Dodge City, so I reckon I best be moving along. Best you start listening to the Spearsy Spin with Mike Spears. Ha!
Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you, brothers and sisters. My name is Linda Sarsour, and I am one of the national co-chairs for the Women's March on Washington. I stand here before you, unapologetically Muslim American, unapologetically Palestinian American, unapologetically from Brooklyn, New York. Sisters and brothers, you are what democracy looks like. Sisters and brothers, you are my hope for my community. I will respect the presidency, but I will not respect this president of the United States of America. I will not respect an administration that won an election on the backs of Muslims and black people and undocumented people and Mexicans and people with disabilities and on the backs of women. including my community, the Muslim community, has been suffering in silence for the past 15 years under the Bush administration and under the Obama administration. The very things that you were outraged by during this election season, the Muslim registry programs, the banning of the Muslims, the dehumanization of the communities that I come from, that has been our reality for the past 15 years. Sisters and brothers, if you have come here today as your first time at a march, I welcome you. I ask you to stand and continue to keep your voices loud for Black women, for Native women, for undocumented women, for our LGBTQIA communities, for people with disabilities. You can count on me, your Palestinian Muslim sister, to keep her voice loud, keep her feet on the streets, keep my head held high, because I am not afraid. Sisters and brothers, fear is a choice. We are the majority. We are the conscience of these United States of America. We are this nation's moral compass. If you want to know if you are going the right way, follow women of color, sisters and brothers. We know where we need to go, and we know where justice is, because when we fight for justice, we fight for it for all people, for all our communities. I want to remind you that the reason why you are here today is because mothers and yoga teachers and organizers and bakers came out to organize. Ordinary people made this happen. No corporate dollars, no money from corporations. This is your dollars. This is your work. This is you made this happen. I am honored to stand here today on the stage as a national co-chair with Tamika and Carmen, who are my sisters, but also with my family, because I organize for my mother, I march for my daughters and all my children. But most of all, I am my Palestinian grandmother who lives in occupied territories, wildest dreams, sisters and brothers, and I'm so proud to be here with all of you. Justice for all.
Teresa Shook and Bob Bland, well, they asked Sarsour to be a part of the Women's March held the day after the inauguration of Donald Trump as president. Sarsour had been targeted with reports that she supported the militant Islamic State of Iraq and supported imposing Islamic law in the United States. So getting out and about and marching with about 1 million women with pink hats, well, that would probably clear everything up, right? Remember earlier when we told you that Sarsour believed that Israel had a right to exist? Well, that theory has now gone by the wayside. As of late, she believed that sanctions should be taken against the State of Israel. And not long ago, a state assemblyman in New York sent Governor Andrew Cuomo a letter objecting to Sarsour as a commencement speaker, given her political views. The letter was co-signed by 100 Holocaust survivors. Uh-oh, one of her own speaks out. Somali-born activist Ayaan Hirsi Ali criticized Sarsour as a defender of Sharia law. Of course, Sarsour, being from a peaceful and, well, understanding religion, said in a 2011 tweet that Ali and some other woman don't deserve to be women. And she then said, quote, "I wish I could take their vaginas away," end quote. Hey, speaking of a peaceful and understanding religion, not long ago, a Dartmouth College student questioned Ms Sarsour about the whole, vagina thing at an event for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Sarsour identified the student as a white man. She then said, in response to his question, quote, "People say stupid expletive sometimes, right?" End quote. Well, the white man apparently didn't feel that this was the correct way in which to answer that question, so he took to social media where he publicized his exchange with Sarsour and linked the tweet to Ali's experience as a victim of female genital mutilation in Somalia. And more recently, Ms Sarsour used the term jihad at an address of the Islamic Society of North America. And oddly enough, Sarsour recounted Islamic scripture where it was asked, what is the best form of jihad? Sarsour alluded to the following, quote, "A word of truth in front of a tyrant ruler or leader," end quote. She also spoke to the need for Muslim Americans to defend themselves against the anti-Muslim Trump administration. Now, the following is a direct quote from Linda Sarsour. Quote, "I hope that when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or on the other side of the world, but here in the United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House," end quote. Jihad, a call for violence against the president? Sarsour claims that she does not invoke any violent intent against the president. Now, Sarsour has linked journalist Jake Tapper to the white nationalist publications and forums. And you have to kind of find it odd that Ms Sarsour made this assertion about Mr. Tapper, because she did that after he criticized a tweet of Assata Shakur, who was convicted of killing a New Jersey state trooper in 1973 and was later added to the FBI's list of most wanted terrorists. Odd, usually a peaceful and understanding religious ideology, such as the one as Ms Sarsour professes to be part of, would not be a proponent of such actions, I would think. Odd. Sarsour says she does not support the Palestinian group Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. However, she has said time and again that she and others must believe in Allah. Allah is very specific in the religious doctrines. Now, if you believe that Ms Sarsour and everything she says, I guess, then you may want to check the arrest records of her immediate family. You know what I mean, the ones that were arrested for supporting Hamas. As of late, Ms Sarsour has been pushing for a new progressive movement here in the United States. So here we go. Let's now provide an overview of all the information we have just queried here. First, Ms Sarsour aligns herself with people such as Angela Davis, who is an American political activist. Now, Davis was a prominent counterculture activist and radical in the 1960s. Now, also, she was a leader of the Communist Party. And here's an interesting tidbit about Ms Sarsour's mentor Angela Davis. On August 7th, 1970, Jonathan Jackson attempted to free prisoners who were on trial in the Marin County Courthouse. During this failed attempt, Superior Court Judge Harold Haley and 3 other people, including Jonathan Jackson, were killed. Now, although Davis did not participate in the actual breakout attempt, she became a suspect when it was discovered that the guns used by Jackson were registered in her name. Davis fled to avoid arrest and was placed on the FBI's most wanted list. Law enforcement would later capture her several months later in New York.
If the black dog of depression makes you feel like the saddest soul on earth, you're not alone. Around 350 million people share this debilitating but treatable condition. If you're worried about someone, ask if they're okay. If you're not doing so well yourself, ask for help. There is no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life. So get help, be helped, and always hold on to hope.
Now, as you know, Ms Sarsour is against the Trump travel ban. So I have to ask the question, well, who are the folks in Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen that Ms Sarsour needs or wants to see? Now, the Islamic terrorists have struck the United States 10 times since 9/11. These attacks were carried out by radicalized followers of Islam. Now, here's a sad list of reminders of a couple of these terrorist attacks. Of course, don't forget there's also London and Paris. Now, here in the U.S., Omar Mateen gunned down patrons at an Orlando, Florida nightclub last June. Why? Because they were gay. Now, he was born in New York to Afghan parents. The second biggest death toll came in December 2015 when Tashfeen Malik, a Pakistani woman, and her husband Saeed Rizwan Farouk, who was born in the United States, killed 14 people at a holiday party in San Bernardino. Islamic ideology. Ms Sarsour was in a forced marriage, yet she battles for women's rights here in the United States. Or is she battling for Sharia law and those rights granted unto women under that covenant? Wait, there are no women's rights under Sharia law. So, who in the right mind would be hand in hand with Ms Sarsour during the Women's March in January? Well, I can answer that. Here we go. We start out with Gloria Steinem, Madonna, Alicia Keys, Janet Mock, Ashley Judd, Michael Moore, and, of course, Maxine Waters put her 2 cents in, as did Elizabeth Warren. Of course, now there were many unions that backed this as well. Now, not all the unions, but many had direct or indirect connections to the march. Now, here is another fallacy on the part of Ms Sarsour. Now, she claims that black women, Native women, Palestinian women, undocumented workers, that is, illegal aliens, the LGBTQ, communists, people with disabilities, and others will only be maligned by the Western ideologies of today going forward. So, it's better to have Islam decide what to do with you. Now, under Islam, the LGBTQ and BLM would immediately and permanently end. Now, if you doubt what I'm saying, let's arrange a trip to, Saudi Arabia or maybe Iraq, and let's see what the Islamic law enforcers have to say about BLM and the LGBTQ. I'm pretty sure it would not end well. So, under the Linda Sarsour Protection Program, Well, she says, don't worry, you'll be just fine. Although she couldn't even help herself from a forced wedding and then an unwanted mating with her prearranged husband. Just saying. Where is Sarsour when it comes to women suffering in the Middle East? She's nowhere to be found. Make no mistake, Sarsour is for herself and for Islam and for Sharia law. If Sharia was to ever become law here in the United States, the LGBTQ would not exist. As Allah says, they must all die. Minorities and small groups of the disenfranchised see people like Linda Sarsour as an opportunity for change. Well, there will be a change, all right, but nothing good for you non-followers of Islam under Sharia law. Now, anyone who would stand on American soil and talk about jihad against a sitting U.S. president, just out to lunch. They're out to lunch. I suspect that Linda Sarsour's, this is my opinion, I think she's a very dangerous person and will lead many to a sad and tragic end. Should Linda Sarsour be arrested and tried for threatening the president with jihad here in America? Well, we'd like to know what you think about that, and we'd like to know what you think about the rest of the show. So please visit us at thespearsyspin.blogspot.com and let us know what you think. Until next time, remember, there's only one world. How do you want to live in it? Linda Sarsour is trying to arrange your life womb to the tomb. Think about it. We'll see everybody next time.
Subscribing to the Spearsy Spin is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just click the subscribe button.